Welcome to On the Fence, the show that's about helping you decide whether or not to spend your hard-earned money on the biggest and possibly best releases. Nick Davis.
Oh, you said surname. Oh, hello.
Yeah, I threw you for a look
Yeah.
there. Nick, we are looking at The Medium, the recently released psychological horror thriller adventure
Game.
Nick,
What are you doing, Hans?
I'm on my OnlyFans, but that's not what I meant.
Jesus Christ. We're fucking trying to record here. Put your fucking phone away.
I'm trying to get the information for The Medium up.
Jesus Christ.
Because I always do this. I always forget about it, and then I'm like scrambling and talking about like, oh, it's like $39.99, I think. But now I'm going to be prepared.
No, you're not. If you were prepared, you'd do it before the episode.
Nick, tell us a little bit about The Medium.
You're a fucking dick. You need to be better at your job.
Yeah, continue.
The Medium is the new horror game from Bloober Team, who have done a good few horror games now. They did Layers of Fear 2, and they did the Blair Witch Project game that came out last year or the year before. I can't remember when it precisely came out. But now they are doing The Medium, which has been pretty heavily marketed by Microsoft. It's kind of been part of their whole
heavy traction when it came out during that trailer.
Yeah, and they've kind of just been this is them continuing on their pretty solid track record of making good horror games.
This was the Bloober Team. I don't know if they were bought over or what, but this is an exclusive to Microsoft and the Xbox.
Yes.
But they weren't one of the studios purchased by Microsoft. But like gameplay wise, tell me a little bit about The Medium.
So it's probably best to describe The Medium as kind of a bunch of different things. Like, most of the game is you kind of walking around solving puzzles in and around either the real world that I'm in now or the spirit world that Marianne, the main character, also kind of constantly inhabits. You'll pretty noticeable whenever you do go to those bits, the game kind of becomes split screen, which is kind of cool. And it's one of the things that has made this game only runs on SSDs. I believe it cannot work on hard drives. I believe that's the reason on PC or on the Xbox anyway. It is only available. Yeah, there's so this game. Bloober Team are a European studio, so this game is full of what the internet affectionately called Eurojank.
Right, Nick. So you have said this a couple of times.
Yeah.
What the fuck does Eurojank come from?
So Eurojank is like a phrase that a lot of people use to describe games that are made typically in Eastern Europe, Eastern Central Europe.
It sounded familiar.
And are kind of just not necessarily poorly made, but just lacking polish is probably the best way of doing it. And it's been a thing for a long time where there's been games throughout the years that this phrase has applied to. There's a company called Spiders, I believe they're called, and they've made games I think most recently they made a game called Greedfall, and it's a very big Eurojank.
Okay.
It is a thing. I'm sure if you looked it up on Reddit or searched for the phrase, it would come up as it's a thing.
Eurojank subreddit.
Maybe not a whole subreddit, but
so tell me a little bit about the story. Well, no, you haven't really gone into what the gameplay. Oh, Jesus Christ!
Mine was not as bad.
So what? So you've kind of gone on a wee bit, but
so you're kind of going around these different areas, and it's either here in the real world, as I said, or in the spirit world, and the kind of either way you're doing puzzle solving kind of things. You're finding different things around areas, and you're just solving kind of fairly straightforward puzzles to progress through the game. And occasionally, and we'll get to a bit in this gameplay bit, you'll go to sections where there is a monster from the spirit world kind of chasing you down, and that'll either be manifest itself in the form of a chase section. There will be occasional stealth sections, and yeah, that's kind of it. And there's just
something.
It's a very, and there's also other bits of the game where, like, kind of more akin to something like a walking simulator, where you're more just walking through, completing bits and pieces, just accepting it as it goes along. And just more being fed story than actually engaging in gameplay.
So a couple of things. So the fixed camera stuff, I see a lot of elements in this almost similar to a Telltale game. Like where it's quite light puzzle solving. Like, well, in terms of the use of items and stuff, it's quite loose puzzle solving.
Yeah.
Scared the shit out of me, buddy.
Other puzzle solving as well.
Well, in terms of items, yeah, but I do feel like, especially later on, there's actually a degree of literal puzzle solving where you're like trying to figure out, alright, so there's a bit later on where like you have to maneuver like water between different tanks so you can access different rooms. And it is actually like, alright, how do I get all this water into the right place and things like that?
Say like, yeah, like in terms, like outside of the item stuff, yeah, I agree. Like, there is actual problem solving, especially with the use of some of the powers that Marianne, who's the main character here, does have. So, for example, like, you have the ability to spirit walk, so have an out-of-body experience, which allows you to pass through openings that may be blocked in the real world, but pass through those openings in the spirit world. There's a nice puzzle early on where you actually go back to a power point, because Marianne needs power to use some of her powers. To go back to a power point, which you could, as your spirit self, collect the power, and then you just return back, and you've carried that power through to where you were. I think that was a really nice bit of the puzzle solving as well. I think like the puzzle solving overall is actually very, very good. Or the puzzles overall is very, very good. Like, and you do have.
What's wrong, buddy?
Dog, shut the fuck up! I am talking.
Oh, let's see what we got here.
You do. That does
Yummy.
not look appetizing.
Dog food?
Yeah, still don't even if I was
Dog food chow chow?
if I was a dog and someone put that in front of me, I'd be like, yo, what the fuck's this shit?
There you go. Eat up, champ.
Because you do have that kind of like a voila moment. You're like, oh shit, yeah, I get it, and that is quite fulfilling. I suppose then we'll talk a little bit about the story then. So, Nick, fill us in of the story.
What is it?
No, that's
fill
not
us
our
in
stance.
about.
Yes.
Fill us in about the story of the medium, Nick.
Fill us in with the story, or
Catch a scent?
so the medium starts. You are Marianne. You have powers that essentially allow you to communicate with the spirit world, and
Anyone in there?
more or less you can talk to people like who are almost in limbo and have not yet passed on to like be fully dead. So you start in the game and you're like putting your adoptive father to rest at his funeral parlor, and you get a call to go to the Niwa resort, which is where we are now. And essentially it's just a string of events of Marianne trying to figure out kind of what happened at the Niwa resort and why there was this Niwa massacre and what happened there. And then that spins off into learning Marianne more about herself and her powers and her a strayed family.
So, at the minute, kind of where you are in the story then is you've just left the Niwa resort
Yeah.
and are currently currently searching for. Well, you're not searching for it. You get a feeling to go to what is called the Red House.
Yeah.
After being revealed that of a certain connection to characters within the story you've met so far. I think the story is really intriguing. I'm really good. I really like the figuring out of what the Niwa massacre is, like how it's drip fed to you, and I do like how
Yeah, now you can see why she reacted, why she did, huh?
did he asphyxiate himself?
Drained. Rotted out from within. Just like those animals I saw earlier.
So like I do like kind of like how that's drip fed about what the Niwa massacre was and kind of what caused it and the effects it then had. Like the idea of what the Maw, which is the monster in this, is kind of like where that came from. What actually is it as well is a really nice mystery. I think the mystery and story elements in this game are very, very good. Like, Marianne's a really likable character. Like the way she interacts with Sadness, who is one of the spirits she finds in Niwa, is really, really cool. And she treats it almost like a mum kind of character. But yes, I think like the story elements and stuff are probably one of the strongest things about this game. Gotta say it though, I don't know why they picked the fixed camera, because fixed cameras are dog shite.
I think the fixed camera is completely fine in this game.
I completely disagree.
They did very well, these.
After they closed down the resort, did he just stay behind?
Apparently so.
What is it, boy? Was he your friend?
Oh, love that shadow glitch the fuck out.
Yeah, I don't know what like mine was definitely not this bad.
It's like it's bouncing between the ray tracing and one and then what like it would do pre-rendered or something or predetermined.
Easy, boy. What is it? Oh, God. It's that thing again.
How can she tell?
No!
Can't even see it.
Stay!
The dog just comes flying over the trees.
What I found out while watching the credits, the monster, voiced by Troy Baker.
Troy Baker, a very talented individual. This is also a glitch, by the way. The monster should be.
No.
So the monster is invisible in
The real
real world. But it's weird. Usually it does like shimmer. And she committed suicide. That was the end of the game.
So I really like this set piece, and I think it really shows off like how cool some of the stuff like they do with the spirit world is.
Yeah, I love the design of it.
Yeah. But like just how like really fucking quickly it like switches between them.
Yeah,
And how like seamless it all feels is really fucking cool.
get it, dude. Skin suit. Fucking use another 9, please.
Don't leave me here!
This is gonna be a thing where it goes across to like the spirit world and the bridge is like. So, those chase set pieces are quite cool.
Yeah.
I do feel like in the very first one though, it wasn't very clear where you're supposed to go at a couple of points because it's a lot. So, like it's like one of the last turns before you hit a sneaking section. There's moths kind of covering the way. It's not across the entire thing, but it kind of makes it a blind corner. You're taught kind of early on, don't go near the moths. I died about 3 or 4 times in that.
You don't just use the shield like you're supposed to?
No. So that's the thing. The moths were a blind corner, so it looked like it was just a wall of moths.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, right, I'm not going to go that way because you moved early on. Like moths are bad.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, like some of the earlier chase sections and some of the later ones as well after this.
Hi.
What?
Are
There.
like that one is very simple. Like you just run forward.
Yeah.
Like it's more about the set piece of it all rather than the actual gameplay. But yeah, some of the earlier ones and some of the later ones do actually have you like, oh, I need to actually be like seeing what I'm doing, or like, oh shit, there's suddenly moss in the way. I need to use one of my spirit powers to get past them. So that's kind of one side of the gameplay, and I think there's
Jack?
in this section I'm come up to there's bits of game. There is some of that puzzle gameplay we talked about. More so, it's more just I follow the path and I grab everything I need to complete the puzzle. And there's also some of the more like stealth side of the gameplay.
Can't be.
You go pick it up?
You can't.
Oh. Would be. There's a lot of holes, so like, yeah, that wouldn't keep the heat very well.
You're not him. You're not him.
Where have you sent me?
I've helped you pass on.
I shouldn't be here, Marianne.
No, you definitely... No, well, you shouldn't be here, but you should definitely be dead and passed on.
Nah,
so.
man.
Your fault.
Jack?
It's too late, Marianne. It's all
So, the bit before this... I don't know if it's using the SSD or if it's the way, just the way it's done, but you're in a house, so you're playing as someone. It's not.
Oh, whatever.
It's so not. It's not dramatic if the monster's not there. It seems kind of dumb. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna lie. But yeah, so the bit.
Need to interact with that.
This won't hold it for long. Move your ass.
So yeah, the bit before this, they do a lot of cool things. Like, I'm trying to think how to describe it. When you're in the spirit world, I find so in the previous one to this, or previous kind of chapter to this, you play as Thomas,
Yep.
who is another medium in the game, and he goes into the spirit world, and he's walking through this house, and you start to walk up corridors that like get further and further away.
Yeah.
So it's in voiceover. There's a scene playing out, and as you get closer to the door, so it can let more of the scene play out, the door shoots further away, and that's very, very cool. I find. I don't know if it's use of the SSD that's loading in a new level just there, or kind of how they would do that, but I do like.
A generator.
No, I think that's just a design choice rather than them loading.
But they're very, very good at that, and like
Of
you
course
said
it
as
doesn't.
well, like
I think it's out of gas.
before you went into the forest there, you know,
Locked down
when you're
tight.
in the Neva Resort,
I think there's a
you can look out the window and you see these giant hands and stuff out in the distance, but they're just like murky enough that you're like, is that a hand?
Yeah.
Like, there's really nice design choices, especially in the spirit world, I find. But even the looks of some of the,
Yeah, like I think all the design of the spirit world is actually like fucking top notch. And I think Blooper Team have always kind of been like, people have kind of constantly said about Blooper Team that their art design kind of constantly kind of outthinks their like gameplay design. And I do think that kind of holds true again here.
That was loud.
Where like, yeah, I think the gameplay is kind of simplistic, but like just the art direction and the design of it all is like top notch.
yeah, like the spirit world. Although I wouldn't, like, I don't find it disturbing or scary. I'm sure some people might. But I do think it's very cool. Like even the design of the maw, which is, you can actually kind of see the outline of it there. The fact it's up on its tippy toes like a ballerina, like
Yeah.
that sort of stuff, it's really, really interesting, really, really cool. But like the spirits who haven't been ripped apart, you know, they have like these like Victorian death masks and stuff on, like
I like porcelain mask.
porcelain,
Almost.
yeah, masks, and then like when you see Sadness, like parts of her body have been ripped away, and just it's like held together with like kind of veins, almost like the
Yeah.
flesh is in there, but the veins are still kind of there, and stuff like that. Or I think I like it. What I like as well is a really big contrast to here, like the real world. But then obviously it heightens the fact of like how fucked up it all looks.
Yeah. See, So yeah, these are kind of the stealth sections, and they are pretty simplistic. You kind of only have like 2 options. You can crouch to actually sneak down, and then you can also like hold your breath, because he's like whenever he's in the spirit world and you're not, he kind of sees you via
Your breath and smell.
yeah. Use the gas canister on it.
So, we've talked about this before. I don't like the fact that the monster comes across into the real world. I think, excuse you. I think like there's it's probably kind of a theme that's kind of been happening recently with the likes of the Resident Evil redesigns, remakes even, like with like the Nemesis and stuff like that, where like it's the idea of like, oh, the monster can come at you at any time, and that creates suspense. I don't like it. I feel like in a game like this, whatever, like especially when like the Niwa massacre and stuff is given to you via kind of audio logs, pretty much.
Yeah.
It makes you stop searching stuff out because you're not afraid they can show up at any moment.
But I kind of counteract that in that I feel like the game is not like that. Yeah, I know, like, yes, the idea is, oh, the monster's constantly around, but he's kind of not. He's, like, never actually around unless the game specifically, like, points him out. It's not like, oh, I could just be in the middle of a puzzle and then he jumps out. It is always very specific when he is around. I love the very descriptive subtitles.
Yeah, I was about to say
that happens a couple of times and it's really weird.
I don't remember putting in like those subtitles.
Like it's almost more like an audio description rather than a subtitle.
But I would have preferred if they had kept it kind of like puzzle solving in the real world, kind of your action, sneak, and set pieces and stuff in the spirit world, because I feel, other than when you're kind of blended between the two, that's cool. Because to me, for a couple of reasons. One, I think it makes Miriam seem a lot more courageous. Because at the end of the day, she's then choosing to go back in the spirit world. And if she just stayed in the real world, she'd be safe. But then, two, I don't know, I think I would like to explore more of the world and see as much as possible of the Niwa massacre. And I guess it's probably it's a horror trope, and that's fine. That's kind of why I don't like horror games. I feel like they limit you, so they do, in like what you can explore.
I get that, but I also feel like the game makes it kind of very clear that the monster is not constantly after you. So like I've never felt like, oh, I'm being dissuaded from exploring because, oh, there's a monster, because it is very obvious when the monster is there and what you should be doing, and they're not. I never noticed when I played this game that they like went out of their way to put like some of the collectibles and things like that in the round where like these stealth sections take place.
Yes! Burn, you twisted fucking bitch!
You don't know if it's a female.
Yeah, sure.
God, I hope this is over.
No, we still got like 3 or 4 more hours left of gameplay. And I know you said before, like with the likes of the texture and lighting glitches. Did you get that much stuttering as well? Like I've noticed a lot of stuttering and stuff.
Like I wouldn't necessarily say like I noticed it, but I definitely noticed a bit where there was like pretty hefty like frame drops, but it was never like, yeah, I don't know. Yours seems to be like way more like jittery than mine in terms of like some of the textures popping in. You're definitely running this on an SSD, yeah?
It's on the M2 drive.
Oh, okay, that's weird. No, like mine was okay. I got texture pop-ins and stuff like that, but I never got like the very consistent like texture like blinking that you seem to be getting on this.
So this is kind of its showcase here is The split
The
world.
patented split screen.
Did they patent this?
Yes.
This doesn't seem niche, like gimmicky enough to patent.
I was hoping
Patented
you'd tell me.
hands. We will never get the 24 game that we truly deserve.
Goodness.
Weird. Unless they write it out.
Yeah, unless Blooper Team make it.
Um,
To as far as
so
you can
this is sadness. This is one of these. Really, the only other spirit you see.
The only kind of like
Marianne.
Is this a game?
up and moving about and walking around spirit that you kind of talk to. Like the other ones are like you do encounter a couple that are like embedded in walls and like just kind of waiting to be passed on, which like Marianne does.
I know what Richard did.
Sadness seems to be the one that like is actually kind of up and about the like Niwa resort.
It's okay. I've sent him away. He's gone forever. Lily,
Lily? Lily.
that used to be your name. Do you remember? All that's happened. Your father. You remember him?
I remember. Mommy.
So, not to take away from the technology design and stuff, right? You could just do the exact same thing with 2 rendered cutscenes and just
Yeah.
across the screen.
But like I do think we didn't really show it here, but I do think the split screen stuff comes a lot
Be nice.
across a lot better in some of the puzzles.
I think
Where
it's
like
the gameplay,
your arc,
yeah.
like when it's like there's you mentioned one coming up to this where you're in like a room and like it's designed in such a way that you do need to kind of constantly be aware of what's going on in both worlds because you need to be checking like, oh shit,
I was
there's something here, but or there's something here in one world, so I need to remember to pick it up, or oh, there's something blocking my way in the physical world, so I can like kind of have an out of body experience to get past it very briefly. So I think in the cutscenes, it's just kind of a neat effect.
Yeah.
I think really where the split screen stuff really does actually shine is in some of the like the puzzling gameplay,
Yeah.
where like things you're doing in one world are affecting the other.
Yeah.
I shouldn't be here.
Maybe you'd be better off somewhere else. Maybe I could.
Send me away? No, Marianne. I can't leave. Not yet.
But why? Aren't you afraid of the monster?
I am. But it doesn't need me anymore. It wants you. And when it breaks you, when it puts you on, it'll finally be able to leave this place. But it will never be full. It will never stop killing.
Then let me send you away. So we can both leave. Now that you remember who you are, I can...
No, Marianne. It's not just about me. It's you. You have to remember the dream, the fire, the red house.
What?
Nani?
Wait!
I'd be like,
What
bitch,
is
would you
the Red
stop
House?"
Batmaning on me?
With me. You were always with me. I'm so sorry.
Lily? Shit.
Yeah, so I think that's a good place to call it. And we'll go into our review bit.
Yep.
Gone.
All
Some
right.
of the more
thought I could
bits
find
after this are a bit more direct spoilers.
Yes, not a worry. So yes, we will now cut ahead
I
to
really hope you're
Nick's
still out
and
here.
mine's thoughts and opinions on the medium.
Options.
Nick,
Hans.
I have a question to ask you.
Okay.
Were you scared at all during that entire thing?
No.
Okay. So it's not a very good horror game.
Like, well,
No, right, well, we'll do it properly. Nick, if I was on the fence about the medium game, what would you say to me?
I would say I do actually really like this game. I think it is janky, yes. I will not put it past that. It is a pretty janky game at times. But I also think it's doing a lot with a really cool like concept with that split screen stuff and how it really and uses that really well to tie into the set pieces. The other side of it is I do also really like the story. I think it tells a really interesting story that goes some really cool places and like does set up really cool plot points and resolves them really well. And even as a horror game, like it is much more one of those horror games that just makes you kind of feel constantly tense. It's never really like, oh shit, things constantly fucking jumping out at me and I'm shitting my pants every 5 minutes. It's a lot more just about kind of constant tension. And yeah, there's a couple of bits that are like, oh Jesus, what the fuck? But it's not like it's constantly relying on that, and I think it's very enjoyable for someone who isn't a fan of horror games, because it's just like, there's almost just like a constant tension that's kind of pushing you forward and forward, rather than I'm scared to walk 2 steps because something else is going to fucking jump out and yell at me. But overall, I would highly recommend it. It's not stepping your toes. It's on Game Pass, so it's kind of a low risk investment if you want to try and put some time in it and see if you enjoy it. And I do think it is like, I was very impressed when I played it. It exceeded my expectations of it as a janky ass horror game, and was just a very, very solid horror game and a really cool narrative.
A ribbon?
But hadn't you also played the medium? So if I was on the fence about the medium, what would you say?
On the other hand,
I think this is a game of 2 halves for me.
Get it? Because it's split screen?
Yeah.
Was that
You didn't have to explain my joke. Jesus Christ. God, fucking hell, Nick. So, yes, game of 2 halves. So pretty much, I feel like, I think the story is fantastic and really intriguing. There's a lot of kind of like mystery to it. I think the design is really, really interesting and cool. And it does really kind of like,
I didn't mean to. Oh God!
it portrays just how disturbing the world is and kind of what some of the things are. I think that the puzzle solving and stuff, it hits more times than it misses. There's definitely a couple of times I do think it's a bit kind of like, for fuck's sake, like, what's the answer? But more than not, it is very enjoyable and it's very satisfying. The other half for me though is just some design choices I don't enjoy. So, like I said, for a horror game, I don't find it particularly scary or disturbing.
I had
1 or 2 jump scares, sure, but that's very easily done. I don't enjoy the stealth elements. I don't like stealth in general. And I feel like putting them into this, and it's not very intuitive stealth either. Like, you know, it's not like you're, like you said yourself, it's very basic. So I don't enjoy it. And then the technical aspects, so fair enough, you said maybe it's just my game, but I still encountered them. Yeah. So, like, the day 1 patch did fix a lot of things compared to what it was originally, because I had 2 crashes, I think, when I played it originally on the first day, and the texture jitters were a lot worse, and the frame rate stumbles, but it's still clunky, and it's still glitchy. And I don't enjoy Eurojank. Overall, I wouldn't recommend this game. It's not for me. I get that. I think if they had just got 1 or 2 things right, a bit more right, I probably would have enjoyed it. But as it is at the minute, I would not recommend it. That is
falling apart.
mine and Nick's opinions on the medium. Currently available on Xbox Series X.
Series S and Series X is not available on the one series of consoles.
And Microsoft Windows, either via the Xbox Pass or via Steam.
I need to be sure.
For about £40.
Something around here.
I do think that's a bit steep, considering it's only about a 10-hour game.
I just think that's how game prices are these days, to be perfectly honest. Plus, it's also available on Game Pass for like a $5.
So I think that's what if I was to recommend anything, I would say get Game Pass for like a $5 and then give it a go. But thank you very much for joining me, Nick.
No problem.